it's the time frame of it all. No witnesses, he's walking by it. So he's supposedly done the murder, walked all the way back to his mum's house, washed his clothes, because he had the same clothes on that day, and then went back out looking for her, found the body, and never had any evidence on him.
Listen, see, if she was killed at 5:15, which the police have to put because that's the only time frame they have, I think he's got 50 minutes all in, to commit such a gruesome murder. Get home, about a mile and a half away, clean up, although the residue under his nails is dirty and his hair's dirty, so he couldn't have washed up. And then to be seen at the top of his street as in a positive ID, I think approximately 45, 50 minutes later. That in itself is virtually impossible. But then, 2014, the Scottish Criminal Case Review Commission have Jodi in a positive sighting near her home at 5:30. So if Jodi's alive at 5:30, which the Commission are now accepting, right, because it's a positive, Jodi was never identified on that path. Angina Bryson says that she's seen a boy arguing with a female and she points Luke Mitchell out photographs, but when it goes to court, she can't pick him. So Jodi's alive at 5:30. So Luke Mitchell, I think it's 5 to 6. He's seen at the top of his street, 2 miles away, 2.5 miles. Around about that. So he's got 25 minutes to somehow get Jodi from her home, approximately to where she's found, 1,000 metres, 1,500 metres. Kill her, strip her, mutilate her, then travel another mile and a half, 2 miles to his home, and then sitting at the end of the path waiting on his pals. 25 minutes later. It's just impossible, the whole thing. None of it makes sense, Jim. But at the time, the police were convinced it was Luke Mitchell. And the first month, listen, the whole thing is botched. I keep using that word, but the whole investigation, they never investigated Jodi Jones's murder. I'm going to say that right now. Craig Dobie, in my personal opinion, should be jailed. Him and a couple of other officers in that murder squad, they need imprisoned. They need criminally charged for, I was going to say for negligence, but it's not just negligence. They made a murder.
Falsifying.
And the very difficult thing with that is they had help from a man called Lord Alan Turnbull. He orchestrated the whole investigation. But it wasn't an investigation. They convinced themselves Luke Mitchell done it, and then they made facts fit the crime rather than investigate. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
They made a murderer of a schoolboy. That's what they done.
Definitely fitted up here.
Definitely.
So I always wanted to ask you, now that I've got you sitting in the chair, who do you think killed Jodi?
Me personally, I think Jodi's brother killed her.
Right.
I know people don't like me saying that.
Do you have like a scenario of how the murder happened in your head?
I've based on purely on evidence. Forget the circumstantial stuff. Just hard evidence. He's the last man to see her. 5:30 at night. 10 weeks prior to the murder, he's sectioned 3 times. And 4 weeks before Jodi was killed, he was sectioned for beating up Jodi, smashing up her house. And in a very similar way, dragging her with the hair, ragdolling her and punching her. Right, and Jodi was ragdolled. I use that word, they swung me about with the hair. And his psychology reports, which I've showed you, I've let you read them for the safety of your show, you know. I put them online and I've been warned, you know, don't go any further with. So I'm only speaking my mind. I'm not going any further. But 4 weeks prior to Jodi being murdered, Joseph was sectioned for beating Jodi up. And the psychology team did not want him to go home. Because when he went home, his mum's a psychotic. She does not force him to take his psychotic drugs, antipsychotic drugs. And she permits him to smoke cannabis resin, which exaggerates his condition and makes him paranoid. For days before Jodi was murdered, he had been smoking bucket bongs. He bought a 9 bar, him and his pal John Ferris, the 2 moped boys we're going to talk about, right? They had a 9 bar, a soap bar, and they'd been smoking bucket bongs for 2 or 3 days prior to Jodi's murder. So we've got a man who's taken antipsychotic drugs, who stops taking them all of a sudden. He's off them for 4 weeks, Anybody knows antipsychotic drugs or any kind of drugs, once you come off them, it creates psychosis. And so he's psychotic, he's paranoid because he's smoking bucket bongs, he's got a history of beating Jodi up, he's got a history, he's carrying a large knife, I'm doing that, by the way, a large Bowie knife, or a half sword, one man called it, in his rucksack, because he's paranoid, he can't leave the home without it. On the day Jodi's murdered, she's seen getting followed by him, and he's wearing a large rucksack. So common sense tells you in that rucksack is a large Bowie knife, and then sometime after he's last seen her, Jodi's butchered by a large knife. Now I can say I'm not a forensic scientist. People will start shouting I'm not a forensic scientist, but I've sat over the 20 years with forensic scientists, pathologists, criminologists, lawyers, QCs, and we've debated Jodi's injuries were not caused by a stupid wee penknife like the Daily Record try and tell you. Luke Mitchell wrote some stupid verse on it. I think it comes from Nirvana. Do you know the music? The greatest day that I've never seen, and Jodi's date of birth, and he stupidly wrote a verse on the pouch of the knife. That knife could not have inflicted the injuries I seen on Jodi Jones. Please listen, that was not caused. That's been caused by some kind of hunting knife, or a samurai sword, or a sword, or a machete, or something, It wasn't caused by a stupid wee knife like the Daily Record told us,
So see, come back into the documentary, right? I like saying that because it was really interesting. Because it really took me right into the scene, right?
Probably the best bit of work I think I've done on this.
It was brilliant. But when Jodi's took that path through the woods, obviously you've said you don't think she's went down that way. She's went this other way because that's the natural path that you would take. Do you think he's followed her until that could be a possibility, and then he's attacked her in the woodland?
But listen, see that night, Jodi's seen at 5:30, right? He had already made arrangements to meet John Ferris, who's one of the moped boys who are at the V in the wall round about the time of the murder. They're over the wall. The V in the wall is an entrance into woodland strip in the field, beyond field. So they're there, or thereabouts. And so I'm surmising here that they were arguing or falling, and something happened, bad happened in the woods. Ferris and Dickie and Joe Jones and Jodi. He had already arranged to meet him at 6 o'clock. So if he's seen it leaving the home at 5:30, and Jodi and him leaving the home at 5:30 in the street, he's going to meet two guys that a mile and a half will be travelling up one path, and Jodi's allegedly going down that path. So obviously they're going to meet in the middle way. They've all got mobile phones that were never tested. And
So
what happened over that wall that day, I don't know. Nobody knows.
What's the story with the two mopeds then? So I know that right after the murder, they scrapped the motorbikes, is that right?
Listen, that night, that afternoon, that early evening, they were there. Right?
So the moped leaning against the wall?
The wall. Now, see, when you lean over the wall, there is only one place they could have went, is over that V. Where did they go when they went over that V is only they know. Only Ferris and Dickie know that. What I can tell you is, Ferris was meeting Joe Jones anyway because they were sharing hash. They had a 9-bar between them, and they left each other at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock that afternoon, and we're going to meet back up at 6. So 5:30, is it 5 or 6 anyway? So did they all meet each other over that wall? I don't know. Nobody knows. My personal opinion, John Ferris and Gordon Dickie know exactly what happened that day. Right? And when they left there, they went directly to their father's house. David Dickie, right? David Dickie then goes back to the V in the wall with his 9 spaniel dogs. He walks directly to where they've just left. If you see the area, you could go left or right. You could walk for miles and miles without ever going anywhere. You walk your dogs without going over that V in the wall. He that day, coincidentally, went exactly to that V in the wall, right? In 2021, I've shared the statement with you. Gordon Dickie.
Want some more water, Scott?
Aye, please, I'll take
that glass over.
Gordon Dickie releases a statement in 2021. And he says if him and his dad are guilty, I think this is a Freudian slip. Right? If him and his dad are guilty of anything, is if they'd arrived at earlier either side, at the time that they did arrive, they could have saved Jodi. Me personally, I think that's probably true. I genuinely think Dickie Jr.
Go, mate.
I believe he's a decent big guy, by the way. I'll say that on record. He's,
Right.
right. I don't think they tried to say up Luke Mitchell. I think they were just stupid young laddies covering up for their psychotic cousin. The psychotic pal who's went fucking flipped the lid and done whatever he's done, and I think they try to cover up for him. Wrongly. Say that right. And then once you've started covering up, I think they were in over their necks after that and they can't get out. The dad's a different kettle of fish. I think they left the V in that day and the dad went right back over with his dogs. He went to the press and looked, so I'm the great man that's going to solve this crime. This is how bizarre this crime is. David Dickey told the Sun newspaper that murder squad detectives were in his home and they were questioning him about his sexual advances towards Jodi, 14. At the time he'd be 50-ish. So a 50 middle-aged man anyway, getting questioned about his sexual relationships towards a 14-year-old murder victim, and he told him to get out of the house. Now, anybody that knows murder squad detectives, you're not telling them to leave your house unless you've got some kind of pull with them or some kind of influence. David Dickey had influence over the murder squad detectives, and he's telling that to the paper. Now, even be more bizarre. His son's at the murder scene at the time allegedly Jodi was getting murdered. Because I'm only saying allegedly because the times are, nobody now knows when Jodi was killed. There was never proper testing and stuff, and we now know she was alive at approximately 5:30 when she's supposed to be killed at 5:15. So, but David Dickey gets used by the police. Now his son's at the murder scene with his cousin John Ferris, right? Police are asking him about his sexual advances towards Jodi, but the police also think it's right that they take him to where Jodi's found and they're asking him his expert opinion about how a man would escape after killing him. He's got blood on his boots, so they can't then say he found blood come from the murder or moving the body because the police have took him in the murder scene. Now, never in my life, now I've read lots of everybody watches Cracker and fucking Taggart. You've never seen a murder case ever in your life before where they take a person of interest at least. If they're questioning a middle-aged man about sexual advances towards Jodi Jones, he's a person of interest at least. But they deem it fit to take him to the murder scene to ask him his personal opinion about how the murderer would have escaped from the scene. That's just the whole thing, right? So, when they gave that statement about if they had arrived a wee bit earlier, they could have maybe saved Jodi. I believe that to be the case. They also say that they've now got reservations about Mitchell was wrongly convicted. I believe they know that. But I don't think they set out to set up Luke Mitchell. I think they set out to save Joseph Jones, their pal, their cousin, their friend, you know, family friend. David Dickey was very close to the Jones family and all that. Right, but the police used this guy. Listen, there's allegations that he was a police informant. He was a police operative. He used to take on what I do know is he used to take shooting parties up the Lammermuir Hills with local police. Dalkeith police used to go up the Lammermuir Hills shooting, and he led the shooting parties with his dogs. So that's why the police went to him to ask him for his expert opinion. Imagine asking a man whose son's at murder scene, allegedly having sexual advances towards the murder victim, and they use him as an expert witness and take him in the murder scene, and then they discover blood on his boots, but they can't check where the blood came from, because even if it was Jodi's blood, he's got an answer for the blood being on his boots because the police took him to the scene. That in itself, just they should have been reprimanded for that, and just it gets worse.
It does get worse. But take me into the trial then. So it was 8 months. The window there, the investigation, they'd already
charged him.
They'd already made their mind up. They charged him, and then is he remanded? And then
they put him in a child secure unit.
Right.
Took him to trial in 2005. 2005, I think, November. I'll be wrong. There's people online.
He waited till he was 16, didn't he?
He waited till he was 16. Alan Timmel, I'm just going to say this. This is where it gets dangerous for me, because Alan Till's probably one of the most powerful men in Scotland, High Court judges. At the time, he was the advocate deputy who had just helped prosecute Al McGrackie, you know, in the Lockerbie case.
Yes.
And he was used to all these props and Hollywood film stuff. He done the same with Mitchell. He built the V in the water in the court. How difficult it was to climb over this V, and you had to. Jodi couldn't have went over there herself. Jodi Jones would have jumped over that V. Probably been over that V 100 times to get to the wee gang hut the other side to smoke hash. And it wasn't a difficult place to get to, Joe. I suppose if you're a big fat pathologist, you want to say her back. But anybody else, I mean, you went there now, you climb over it quite easily, Joe. My dog jumps it, and David Dickey says when he got there, his 8 spaniels jumped over the wall, but one of them was too old, so he had to carry it. Psychologists pay attention to that. Oh, why you want to draw attention to your dogs? And there's all that stuff. It just, but wasn't the trial was a farce.
How long was the trial? How long did it
it's
last?
the longest trial. I think it's the longest trial in Scottish history apart from Locker.
Right.
28 days, am I right? I'll be wrong here. 26 days or 28, and they'll be pulling me. You didn't know your case, but it was built on circumstantial evidence.